Welcome to video 2 on tank busting with the IL-2 1941-42 models, and we're going to talk about the low angle attack dive technique. I recommend you watch video 1 before we continue so you can see the contrast between a 10 to 20 degree shallow angle attack dive and a 25 to 35 degree low angle attack dive. As we noted in video 1, the shallow angle attack is the easiest to pull off successfully most of the time, but it only works against tanks in the open. To deal with tanks partially protected by trees or buildings or sloping terrain, you have two options in your IL-2 toolkit to deal with them. The first is rockets, which I prefer to strafing in these situations because, unlike cannon rounds, rockets do not lose any effectiveness from extended ranges, and we'll cover rockets in video 3. The second tool is employing bombs using a low angle attack dive. Now, when you're selecting your bomb loadout to go hit some tanks, there are a couple of factors worthy of consideration. The first one is, are you going to encounter a large percentage of tanks protected by terrain obstacles? Maybe you're making your second trip over there and you've already had a good look. Or maybe you're on voice comms with somebody over the target area who can relay some details. If you're on a server that recycles a finite number of map scenarios and the targets don't change, you might have hit that target several times already. But if you're on a dynamic campaign server where targets are in a different location every time, it's harder to predict. And the second factor is know thyself. This low angle technique is a little harder to pull off than the shallow angle attack. Maybe you'd rather hit the obscured tanks with rockets, or maybe you prefer to drop the more powerful FAB 100s over the FAB 50s. It's all up to you. So here's an example of this technique with cockpit and external views and real-time commentary. A few basics here. You can execute this technique comfortably from 400 to 500 meters above ground level. I pulled the nose trim back to 100% tail heavy to facilitate the fastest dive recovery possible. I'm dropping 6 FAB 50s with a 5-second delay. You can get away with a 1-second delay doing this with Axis aircraft and their quicker arming bombs, but I recommend a 5-second delay with Russian bombs to ensure you get a detonation. So the ground altitude in this target area is 200 meters. We did our approach from 700, so it's actually true altitude of 500. Now, it doesn't really matter if you hit the column sideways or lengthways. The important thing is to make sure your bomb has a clear path, free of tree branches, to the tank. Generally, I try to keep, as I'm making the attack dive, I try to keep the target tank between the bottom line of the vertical stadia line and the metal bezel ring of the gun sight. And I'm adjusting it up and down depending on what my dive angle looks like coming in. You kind of have to have an intuitive sense of where you need to be pointing when you hit that bomb release button. Generally, I don't see the tank when I hit that button. I'm kind of projecting its additional movement under that bezel ring. And again, it's just intuitive adjustments you have to make based on your diving. And you develop the intuition for knowing when to drop just through practice. I really don't like using a rear gunner with this technique because you just got that extra junk in the trunk and it just takes that much longer to get back up to. So thanks for watching. In video 3, we'll be covering rockets. This is HVB. Peace out.